Well, hello, my beautiful people. Hopefully you guys can hear me. Did everybody hear the intro video? Because I know we were having some issues with some of the intro videos coming in on the first show. We're on a new system, so we're going to constantly be asking until I make sure I master the system. So hopefully you guys can hear everything okay. I'm Bullhorn Betty. We cover true crime. We're going to be covering some of the information related to the Lilly and Jack Sullivan case, but we are here with some not so great news this afternoon. We haven't really dove into this case too much, but we have been monitoring it. We know that we have some true crime content creators that have been covering the case in depth. Related to Jaden Spicer. He's a 10-year-old boy out of Kentucky, disappeared, Jackson, Kentucky. There's been a lot of Jacksons in our, our world, starting off with Sebastian Rogers, Jackson, Tennessee, and then, of course, the Austin Drummond, which spilled over into Jackson, Tennessee, and now we're in Jackson, Kentucky, with Jaden Spicer. And Jaden Spicer, 10 years old, really bizarre circumstances, but at this point, I absolutely believe 100% his mother knew what happened to him. Surprisingly enough, it does sound like it was more recent than not. You know, we had discussed yesterday when we were kind of talking about it, about him possibly disappearing as far back as July 4th weekend, because we were looking at this, realistically, and when was the last a third party saw him, and they said it was like the July 4th weekend, and I'm like, oh, that's not good, because got people at party and stuff like that. So we'll read some articles here and get you guys all up to snuff on Jayden, but this is where the rubber meets the road. This is where kind of all the lies catch up. These folks here, I don't know what happened. Hopefully in time we will learn more about what happened. But it sounds like the mother was ill-equipped to deal with Jayden's high energy. That's the one thing that I heard from several articles from the family, is that the grandmother had Jayden, was the main caregiver of Jayden. He's a young boy. I would think that with high energy, he could have been on the spectrum or had some other situations wrong with him. And he was kind of thrown in his mother's care because his grandmother had passed away. And I'm sure it was a drastic change, going from a loving grandma to kind of, I'm pretty sure, a drug addicted or whatever mother. Everybody says the mother sobered up, but just because you sober up doesn't mean you get rid of or shake, everything. Your attitude, your state of mind, your demeanor, what your triggers, what sets you off. These are things that usually when a mom and son are together, they learn about each other throughout their upbringing and time together. But with this child and this mother not really having that kind of bond, it's just very unfortunate, but not surprising. And I say not surprising is because more times than not, it usually is a caregiver or somebody of caregiver type authority that typically injures children, not the stranger danger. As a matter of fact, the stranger danger is probably the lowest statistical possibility when it does come to children. However, we never just want to assume. We don't want to assume that it's the mother. She did have, I don't know if it's her husband. Is it a husband or a boyfriend that lives in the house? And we know how the step parents can be. I mean, we are dealing with Sebastian Rogers case, and I don't think hardly anybody really gives two rats patooties about hashtag Christopher Proudfoot. I don't know, but I would assume. But the the weird thing is, it actually most notable in this particular case is the fact that Jayden was told, they said he wandered off in the middle of the night. And we even used that assessment here yesterday, and of course many of you guys, just like myself, agree that the possibility of him walking out in the night with the bugs, much like Sebastian Rogers, is very low. It's hard to believe. Jacqueline, I agree. It's nice to see you. It's nice to see you, love. So sad. Very, very, very sad. Let me get over here so we can read this article, so you guys get kind of up to snuff of where we are with Jayden. There he is. It's so sad because he probably had the best life with his grandmother. And, that's the bad situation with grandparents raising their grandchildren, is things can happen. And this was probably the worst case scenario. It's just heartbreaking. Just heartbreaking. So the body of a missing child, and I think it's Breathitt County, if I remember the pronunciation of it, Breathitt County, was found Tuesday, almost 1 week after the family members said they last saw him. The body of Jaden Spicer, 10, was found near Canoe Road in Breathitt County, Kentucky, State Police said. Now you're going to learn, we're going to go through this, that it was in a rural area, a very desolate area. That is a dump site, and there's no way he got 19 miles. His mom, that they know. No other details about where the body was found were immediately available Tuesday evening. State Police will hold a news conference at 8:30 p.m. Let's see if that news conference is going on. Hold on a second. Give me just a second. YouTube, let me take you guys off real quick. Let's look at this real quick, because we should be right about the time that they should have this. Jaden Spicer. Oh, I see. There's some Spicer news conference. Maybe we'll find something. So far, nothing is live just yet related to the news conference. Let me see if I can find it somewhere else. Yeah, I don't see the news conference. They said it's going to come on, so if somebody sees it, let me find my cell phone real quick. One of my mods, if you guys could be checking, I will keep my phone on. Let me get it plugged in because it's almost dead. If you guys get the idea of where the... Why is this... please reach out and let me know. But for the time being, we'll go ahead and keep reading this Google. I just don't like you guys seeing what I'm typing and doing some research and stuff like that. So we'll get back to this. He was buried in the woods. No other details where the body was found were immediately available Tuesday evening. State Police will hold a news conference at 8:30 p.m. It may have already come and gone. I don't know. I didn't see it. It's not out on social media just yet. The search for Jayden began August 6th after his family reported him missing from his home in Panbowl Branch Road, on Panbowl Branch Road in the Jackson community. Family members told police Jayden was last seen about 9 p.m. on August 5th, and they said he was gone the following morning. State police were notified that Jayden was missing at 9:23 a.m. Wednesday. I will tell you guys this. I truly do believe that the reason why they most likely found this kid... Well, we got to learn the details. I could be wrong. But I have a funny feeling they either followed the vehicle or they followed some type of tracking device, a cell phone, smart watch, something of that. Hold on, let me just go through the chat, because I know you guys are, if you guys are learning information, you guys are going to be pumping it into the chat. Good evening, everyone. It's nice to see you. I'm glad you all are here. Once we wrap up with Jayden, I'm hoping that maybe we can get the press conference, but once we wrap up into Jayden, we're going to go and move right on into Lilly and Jack Sullivan, as promised earlier in our earlier live. Let me just see. Yes, don't forget to say, yeah, rest in peace. Maybe some blue hearts. I don't know what his favorite color is. We didn't learn that. But I think blue hearts would be appropriate, and it is absolutely heartbreaking. We kind of knew. I mean, this is what irritates me with the a-holes on these hate channels. They act like it's not rocket science. It just isn't, and it's sad. It's sad. Our children, some of them just born to the wrong parents. Hey, Pink Bo Birdo, it's nice to see you. It's nice to see you. Jayden only lasted a few months with his mom before his demise. Yeah, he sure did. He sure did. But we have to be careful, because, again, there's another person in that house. And we don't know, no matter how you look at, the mother is going to be responsible or held account somehow, because she either let it happen. There's no way that people don't know abuse inside their home. I'm sorry, I just don't believe it. In some cases, maybe there might be a little more information saying, hey, nobody knew about it. But in many times than not, they know what's going on. I mean, look at the West family. I truly believe the Wells know. I'm not buying this new crap about him owing a debt and somebody coming on the property and taking Summer Wells. I'm not buying any of that. I don't know who's spreading that crap around. I heard that the other day. I can tell you I have invested a lot of time and money into the Summer Wells case. We've got interviews that will never, from people that are already passed away. There is no, in my opinion, there is no weight to those statements at all in the Summer Wells case. We have a lot of parents doing horrible things to their children, and 99.9% of the time, it's because of substances. There are other factors, like domestic violence or alcohol abuse, but it predominantly is the substances. The substances are what's leading to the domestic violence. The substances and the alcohol. Because had they not been, high or drunk, that would not have happened. Just my opinion. Child killers definitely have a dangerous life in jail. They do, and they should, because, there's a lot of people in jail for stupid stuff. Just stupid stuff. They still love their children, and they're being taken away from their children. And they know how vulnerable they are with their child out in the world and then behind bars. And then when somebody comes in there and takes innocent people, like a child, children are innocent. You don't really have a whole lot of good times in there. Male or female. Male or female. Mom has already confessed. Ruby says mom has already confessed and in custody. She should be. She should be. So now we have a situation much like I want to just throw this out there. Much like the Sebastian Rogers case. Parents say the child got up in the middle of the night and just walked out of the door and never came back again. 19 miles away, that means they would have been in the 20-mile radius. That would have been statistically, given you an idea of where that needed to be. 19 miles. So it would have been in that 20-mile radius, much like we talked about with the Sebastian Rogers case. And we know darn good and well law enforcement did not search 20 miles. A 20-mile radius for Sebastian. So this is good. This case here, as horrible as it is, it really does help us and help showcase how statistics work. You know, because this is more of a rural area. That 20-mile radius would have almost instinctually been applied just by the terrain in the area. And the child was within 19 miles of their home, and it sounds like buried. Can we apply this in the Sebastian Rogers case? Can we apply this in Lilly and Jack Sullivan's case? Statistics are just that. It's basically what does the average person in this situation do? You know, I mean, the average person, and I don't think it's an average person that will ever hurt a child. It can't be an average person. Chris and Katie Proudfoot, where is Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers? Y'all know. Thank you, Denise. I agree. She had to have had help. In my opinion, she didn't drive, I thought, and didn't have a car. I guess somebody would know that. I haven't really kept on this case very often, but I have watched it enough that it was in my queue on Google. You know, that I have been monitoring the case. And because that's what happens when you research something. If you notice on your phone, it's not really on the computer, but on your phone. If you go into Google just on the regular page, well, if you scroll down, you have all these different articles. And it's really based on the preference of what you watch online. And so I've been monitoring Jayden enough that it cued me that there was some movement in the case. And then I found out that he was found. And my heart is breaking. But it was Jennifer Coffindaffer's post that said, I want you all to remember the mom said that he had just walked out of the house. And I'm like, oh, crap, this doesn't look good. So I started looking into it. I started reading the article, this article here, and realized that he was definitely a significant length away from where his home was. And then it's kind of like right then and there, you know. Mom's responsible. You know, stepdad might be responsible, or boyfriend, whoever the guy is. I know there's a guy. I've already heard a guy. There's a guy that apparently stays there with her. Now, I'm pretty sure full time. So let's get back here. On Friday, KSP said they were broadening their search because they had thoroughly searched all areas of priority. Multiple agencies were involved in the search using aircrafts, drones, dogs, sonar, thermal imaging, and boots on the ground, state police said. Margaret Henson, the library media specialist at Highland Turner Elementary, where Jayden attended school, said Jayden's classmates ask daily if he's been found. This is going to be very hard on them, guys. The harsh reality is going to hit them tomorrow, she told the Herald leader. Jayden didn't deserve any of this, and he will be missed terribly. There's nothing positive I can really say. This is all horrible. Judges don't know all the time what is best for the children. I don't think that the judge did anything wrong necessarily in this case, even despite his mother's past, because she's had other kids. Her other kids were healthy. We looked at where she lived. It looked decent. As opposed to throwing a child into foster care after the grandmother passes away. Her last name was gross too. How can any damn parent or anyone hurt a child? I don't know. It's like, I would think that when you feel the sting in your hand from putting your hand on your child, and you realize you hurt them, you didn't punish them, you hurt them, you would think that, maybe I've gone too far and not do it again. Raising children, again, not everybody is perfect. Sometimes parents are pushed to their limit and go a little too far. But they also make sure that they never do that again if it ever happens. For parents that aren't these abusive people, But don't ever think that a good parent has never accidentally gone a little too far. It can happen and that's one of the reasons why I tell people, when you're raising children, if you're angry, you probably shouldn't physically punish that child, because, again, that's a good way of going, unintentionally too far, because you're human. You have emotions. Sometimes kids can push you to literally no end. I know, because I was one of those children that pushed parents to no end, okay? So I know that there's the possibility, and looking back on my childhood and now being adult, I can see where I did do those things, and I know why I did those things, and it probably had a lot to do with attention, my parents going through the normal stuff that we don't realize that affects us. Jayden just walked out, Sebastian just walked out, Lilly and Jack just walked out. Yeah, exactly, the real Me Too, the common theme. I constantly say on this channel over and over again that we literally cover the same cases over and over again, just different names and different faces. And this is, once again, what I'm referring to. Here are 3 cases that we are covering. We're covering Sebastian's case, we're covering Lilly and Jack's case, and now Jaden Spicer, which I didn't cover in depth, but have been monitoring, and now he is also gone. All 3 of these cases have a common theme. Children, younger children, not adults, and the parents appear to be the responsible party for their disappearance at minimum. 3 cases. Now, guys, I'm using a normal latency tonight, so I've got to go back and check, because I'm trying to adjust some settings for a good, clean, and crisp viewing experience for you. So if I'm not coming in crystal clear, just please let me know. You can always send any type of emails to me at bullhornbetty@gmail.com, bullhornbetty@gmail.com. And all have turned into beautiful women. What were you saying here? I'm a mother of 5, and I'm sorry, I don't understand how or why. Well, the only way I can understand it is somebody just lost their crap. Pretty much what I believe happened in Lily's case, Lilly and Jack's case, and what I pretty much think happened in Sebastian Rogers' case. Somebody lost their crap, and somebody was in the trajectory when they lost their crap, and that person happened to disappear shortly after. So anyways, guys, that's kind of the update for Jayden. Say a prayer. And of course, now reading that article and listening to the children asking about him every single day, that's heartbreaking. No, So we need to say a prayer for the children as well. I guess the silver lining is Jayden was very much loved by his grandmother, and she took care of him until the day she died. And as heartbreaking as this story is, I pray that he gets to spend eternity with his grandmother, the one person that cared for him more than anybody, including his own mother. So, never any excuses. There's always help. Yeah. And you know what? Sometimes the best thing to ever do is just walk out the front door. Not leave your children. Just walk out the front door. Shut the door behind you. Take a deep breath. Collect your thoughts. Go back in and handle your business. All right. All right, for many of you guys, you may know or you may not know about the Lilly and Jack Sullivan case. As you guys can see, wrong side over here at the very top is Lilly and Jack Sullivan. Below them is the trailer and the property that they disappeared from, and the three people at the bottom are the adults that were on scene at the time they disappeared. Now, we have recently heard about this 5-speed motor. So what happened is on the week of, the ending of the week was May 2nd, which was a Friday. But earlier in the week, Mondays, I can move my hand, Monday, starting on February 28, 2025, the kids went to school. They also went to school on Tuesday. However, on Wednesday, they did not have school for a professional day or some type of training day for the teachers. There was some type of reason why the kids did not go to school on Wednesday. We learned from Janie the family went to another person's house. I believe her name was Patty. Maybe it was something else, but Patty is what's popping into my head for some reason. The story was they went there to wash clothes, and they got back home that evening about 10:30 at night on a Wednesday. That's pretty stinking late. I still don't understand that, and I still don't understand how Lilly got a black eye, but allegedly, according to Daniel Martell, he made posts indicating that a Tonka truck that Lilly was playing with popped up off the floor and smacked her in the eye, resulting in a black eye. I don't believe that story. I've played with Tonka trucks. I'm sure, smacked in the face with me and my sister were rough. Okay? That's all I gotta say. We were rough. I don't know what Lilly got a black eye for, but she's sporting a black eye. So on Thursday, allegedly, the children were called into school as sick. When questioned about it after the children disappeared, they said it was because Lilly had a cough, which doesn't really explain why Jack couldn't go to school if it was Lilly that had a cough. But again, at the time we heard this story, we had no clue that these children were sporting around black eyes. Period. But now that we know that Wednesday is the resulted in Lilly having a black eye, and Thursday she was called in sick, by Friday morning, they're missing. By Friday morning, they're missing. Now, after all this time, from May 2nd to when the children disappeared to now, which has been over 100, where are we, 103, between 103 and 105 days, going off the top of my head. Do your own calculations if it's that important. But, well over 100 days. These children have been missing, and now we're learning in the last week that there was a 5-speed vehicle of some sort going through ATV trails. And I think that was Janie's ATV. Do you guys remember hearing one of Janie's first interviews? And I don't know if it was on a YouTube channel, if it was a news reporter, but it was right before she invited the reporters to her house to walk them through, let them open the sliding glass door and whatever. There was one more. I think it was on Justin for All's channel, but it came from either CBS or CBS, CTV, CTA, or CAT. I don't remember all the news. But there was an interview where Janie was saying that she found out Daniel was missing. She went and got the ATV. Her and her son were on the ATV, and they went back to go pick up Daniel from the pipeline or something like that. But they wouldn't let him get on the ATV or wouldn't let him take off on the ATV. Do you guys remember something like that? And I kept saying, that's weird, because it seems awfully funny that she wants to make sure he doesn't touch the ATV. We need to find that. I don't know which one of my videos I did that to, but if you guys have been following me, you guys may have remembered me saying something to that effect. And it was because Janie had said something along the lines of she wouldn't let Daniel take the ATV, and her son, her other son, drove around until they found him at the pipeline, which happens to be where another boot print came up. Well, do you know that ATV, I don't know if I've got a picture of it here or not. I might, but that ATV is a big ATV. It is a large, and I don't know where it is. I think it was on Facebook that I saw it. There it is. Let me go back. Well, let me go back. Why won't it let me go back? Oh, let me go back. Hold on. Let me put it back in here. Who was the last person I searched for? There we go. Now. There it is. I'll find it in just a second. I'll put it up. There it is. It's coming up now, y'all. It's coming up now. There it is. That's a big ATV. It would make a lot of noise. I've had an ATV just this size, so I know the loudness of it. I didn't ride it. My husband rode it. I had a little 125 or I think mine was 150. It's like a mini one of these. I had the like my husband's look this big to my this big, okay? And so this is a much larger ATV, but this is definitely one that would mimic those types of sounds that we never black eyes. Denise says, what? My kids did paintball. Oh, yeah. Somebody shot me in the butt with a paintball, and I can tell you it left a bruise the size of my butt cheek, and it went down my thigh. It was very painful. It was very painful, and you'll never believe it. It was at one of the apartments, and I lived next to a sheriff's deputy. And the guy I was dating was like a big kid, and this sheriff's deputy was like a big kid. And it was the sheriff's deputy that fired the paintball and shot me in my butt. And he intentionally did it. I remember I looked at him, and he's like, I'm so sorry. I'm like, go home. Just go home. I scared myself. But the bruise was bad. The bruise was really, really bad. So there it is, right there, the ATV. This right here, but you have to, it doesn't make sense that this would be what they used, except the fact that Janie was so adamant not to let him touch the frickin' bike. And I remembered that. And I think it was from some of the research like this that I'm doing, or that I was doing. Good evening. Hey, Stephanie. It's nice to see you, love. These two little ones didn't disappear on their own. They aren't ninjas. Exactly, Rod. They're not. But I think some puzzle pieces fell into place, and although slow to get us where we need to be, I think this right here, really, there's a reason. I remember saying something like, wow, Janie didn't want him on the ATV, and I remember under my breath into the audience I say, I wonder why she didn't want him touching. We need to find what I said. I can't remember what I said, but I pointed that out. That's really odd. She wouldn't let him on the ATV. That her and her other son took it, and I said something about that. And I remembered the ATV. And now we have the 5 gears, and then somebody started talking about, is it possible, because this would sound, and I'm like, and I agreed with them, because again, experience means a lot, and I have experience with these things. I did not do the 5-speed thing. Mine did the little thingy on I don't do the, my ex-husband is the motorcycle guy. He's the one with the gears, the foot gears. Okay, I don't do foot gears. I want something right here. I go, it goes, right? And I want to be able to squeeze a brake. I don't want to have to remember if I'm in neutral, if I'm in first gear, second gear. I don't do that. I can drive a standard shift vehicle, but for some reason, you take a standard shift vehicle with my hands and move it to my feet, and I don't know how to ride it, okay? I just don't. So I need an automatic transmission. What we're talking about for these bikes here is manual transmission. So can you get these in automatics? Yes, you can. They're a lot more expensive. They take a lot more expense to run them and repair them. But that would be, this has a clutch on it, okay? My little itty bitty one that looks like a toy to this, that didn't have a clutch on it. It had an automatic. So, and it also had an electric start too, so I didn't have to, pop the clutch to get it cranked. I think Daniel most likely used it to move the children there. And again, we have to remember, we got to look at all these other cases where the parents are involved. Where are they putting these children? They're sinking them in water or they're burying them. Okay? The least likely one is fire. Out of all the cases we cover, the least likely disposal method is fire. So that's, at least we know there's not anything like that. Is fire up there? We know. It's the least, in my opinion, the least likely way that disposal of children are. Oh, the thing that caught my attention was the first day they said they had poor cell service and internet, yet Grandma was on Temu. Valid point. Valid point, Peter. I grew up on a 3-wheeler. That is a long time ago. Okay, well then you you were probably back before they made 3-wheelers and automatics. You probably know how to use a foot clutch. I can use a foot clutch as long as the gear's in my hand. Okay, once you put the gear on my feet, I don't know, because it's. I remember Vince used to always say you got to click down once and pop it up halfway, and you'll be in neutral. And I'm like. And I'm doing it, and I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. Elements of the earth, dirt, water, rocks. But we have to remember, it was 3 trips, 6 passes. That's 3 round trips. So you have to think an ATV like this, I mean, he's probably taking some supplies out there to do whatever he needs to do. Yeah, you can have at least... Honestly, that size right there, it seems like he would probably be able... No, maybe not. It would probably be one at a time. But he wouldn't be going that fast. And if he could go that fast with things on his ATV... I don't know. I don't trust Daniel's family. We got to see his, who they say is his dad. We got to see his dad out there. And while his dad is upset, I can understand it. Randomly attacking a stranger verbally, I don't know how people think this helps their appearance, their cause, whatever the case may be. It seems like it always does so much more harm than it does good when they act that way. And quite frankly, I don't trust Daniel's mother or Daniel's father. Do I believe that they are directly responsible for anything that happened to Lilly and Jack? No, of course not. I don't think. But I do believe that they are the type of parents that will cover, lie, swindle, whatever they need to do to protect their son. I do believe that that's the kind of parents we're dealing with. And that, again, is a shame. But they will be in complete and utter denial that their son has anything to do with it. I mean, look at their lifestyle. I'm sorry. They have done nothing to advance their family or to take care of their family. They have stayed literally in the same place their entire life without even moving. So I don't see them holding their son accountable. And I don't see them really having the kind of care for these stepkids as they would their own children or their own grandchildren. So I just don't see these, and it doesn't sound like Janie really cared for Malehya. I mean, she moved out of the house because of all the noise. The freaking floors were falling in. This was no type of lifestyle for anyone. Protect ATVs from scratches with blanket. Ooh, strips. Now we're bringing in the pink blanket. It is a pink. Wait a minute. It is a pink ATV. Maybe they were covering it up. I did see the pink blanket in the window, but I don't. The problem is the window that was making its way around that showed the pink blanket being in it didn't have a date or an idea of the time frame. You know, was that? And I kept trying to go back through some of the photos from the news to find out if there was a pink blanket at all anytime in that window from the time these kids went missing, and I can't find one, which means it would have already been removed from the window when they reported the kids missing. So that's another clue for me as well. But I am absolutely convinced Daniel Martell is going to be who was planting boot prints, who was planting the pink blanket. And do we know how far away? Well, let me not say the pink blanket now that we heard those revs going in those ATV. Does anybody know where the pink blanket was found in conjunction with the eyewitness that said they heard Daniel on a certain path behind their house? I shouldn't say Daniel, I'm assuming Daniel. But, you know, that vehicle up going back and forth between midnight and 5 a.m. Maybe that's why the parents slept until 10. As they needed to get some shut-eye before they called in the cavalry. Maybe they needed to sober up. They might have been on a bender. It sounds like Patty might be the go-to house for, substances. I mean, she clearly didn't have a problem with a little girl getting a black eye in her home. I have a problem with that. If I ever saw that, I would have kicked Daniel Martell out. Yes, Betty, he was over his head, way over his head now. Police need to make Daniel show them where he was in the water. Yeah, I think, well, I'd like to see where I know people have pointed it out, but I'd like to see a map that shows where the pink blanket is in conjunction to where the eyewitness heard that 5-speed going back and forth 3 times. If it's on that path where it found it, then it may not have been planted. He may have used that blanket to hide or cover up some things. I don't know. But it seems more likely than not, because the one takeaway that I had is that the people from out in Lansdowne Station that live out there know that area and know that area well. They know all the paths, all the trails, all the tracks that other people from the outside would not know. I believe that was in one of the news clips, or that Globe and Media or whatever, that one that was behind the paywall. I remember hearing that, and I remember hearing that just recently. And another thing is, we have to remember, out there in that Lansdowne Station area, guys, there's only 100 residents. Okay? I am confident that if they wanted to interview the residents out there, they would have already interviewed all 100 residents at this point. This is in a very rural area. Not a lot of people out there. I think like 2 cars a day, Globe and Mail. Thank you, Lisa B. Always. So they say like a school bus and something in the trash truck is about the only thing that passes through out there. And you can see that it's so desolate that everybody that does live out there in ran down trailers. There's nothing to support that area. The people that are out there own their lands, live off their lands, and barely have 2 nickels to rub together. And that's the lifestyle Daniel Martell is accustomed to, because that's the lifestyle his parents had. His and Malehya and their mother's story keeps changing. It does. It does, Rod. Pink Blanket was on Lansdowne Road. The neighbor is going the other direction, allegedly. Okay, well then, if that's the case, then I still believe that Pink Blanket. That Pink Blanket... You know why I thought that Pink Blanket was placed there? And I didn't think it at first. You know, I thought maybe one of the kids were wrapped in it and got snagged or whatever. But what convinced me that it was planted was Daniel's behavior and what... Logan, it was a disagreement that Logan and Haley had on It's a Shaming Crime. A Shaming Crime, I think her name's Sunny, had Cheryl. Was it Cheryl or was it Haley? No, I think it was Cheryl. It was Cheryl. It was Cheryl and Logan. And the Shaming Crime had Cheryl, and she was giving this story. And I think she said something along the line. There was this disagreement on where this pink blanket was. Was it in the garbage can, or was it laying on the rail outside of the front door? And from what everybody is saying, it was laying on the rail. Not everybody. Daniel's side of the family is saying it was in the garbage can. Malehya's side of the family say they saw it on the rail, or it was opposite. It's one or the other. It's vice versa. However it is, it was Team Malehya, Team Daniel in their representation. Logan was Team Daniel. Cheryl was a Team Malehya, and they were having this dispute over the pink blanket. But it was when I heard that Daniel got a friend or a witness and recorded himself walking from the house to the garbage can to lift the garbage can up to show that the pink blanket is inside the garbage can. And I was thinking that if you thought or heard, you know, I try to put myself in normal people, you know, my heart's racing, I don't know what happened to children, and now we find out there's a piece of a pink blanket, and I say, ooh, I remember, I thought I saw a pink blanket in the garbage can. I'm not going to think to look over at somebody and say, hey, I need a witness. Oh, let me go put my camera on so I can record myself walking out there and opening the lid. No, it popped in my head. I'm going straight out there to see if that pink blanket is still in that garbage can. I'm not thinking about recording myself. I could give 2 craps about recording myself. I want to know if I'm losing my mind or if that pink blanket is still in that garbage can. And he didn't do that. He played this game. And it's the game that I don't like. And when I heard what he did, I'm like, he's got a witness and he's recording? That's just odd behavior for something like trying to see if that pink blanket is in the garbage can. So now we have the pink blanket in the opposite direction. You know, I didn't do the fact finding myself, but somebody in the group said it appears to be in the opposite direction. And if that's the case, then I come back to it was planted, and it was planted by Daniel Martell. So why is Daniel Martell out there planting evidence? 2 boot prints, 2 different boot prints, and a blanket. Now that's if all these factors are true. We have to, you know, slow up a little bit and realize there may be some error in these factors. What are they? I don't know. Because really all we do have is that the children were reported missing on the 2nd, or excuse me, the 2nd. On the 1st, they were seen in New Glasgow. We learned that the day before they were seen in New Glasgow, which was on Thursday, that Wednesday evening, Lily got a black eye. These things paint a very clear picture in my brain. And VA says, pick 2 Martell. I think pink blanket spells foul play. It does. But what could it mean, though? Like, why, what purpose would it have? And you know what I think it is I think he's been pulling them away from that area for a really long time. I think he was intentionally trying to pull them away because, like I said, who was the one person moving around? Who was the one person from out the gate that said he was the one moving around? It was Daniel Martell. He's the one that got that one boot print known, and he thought that it would imply abduction. When that didn't work, another mysterious boot print shows up at the pipeline. When it seemed like, and he's running all over there. He's running all over there, acting like he's searching. But I really believed, and I even said this a few times, that I really believe he was watching law enforcement. And then all of a sudden, this pink blanket shows up, pulling the team, it just seemed like somebody was trying to pull the team away. Somebody was trying to constantly move law enforcement away from certain areas. And I believe this was strategic from Daniel Martell, as he was closely paying attention to law enforcement's movements. He wanted to act like he was being involved. He wanted to act like he was being cooperative. He was trying to play them as much as they were trying to play him. I didn't know why I felt I was off with Daniel, other than I just knew something wasn't right. And then when I started watching The Deception Detective, if you guys haven't been to The Deception Detective or don't know who he is, he's here on YouTube. Go Google him, check him out. But he has a playlist, and I recommend, if you guys want to learn about linguistics, we have 2 that I highly respect. One, not that one is over the other, but it's just one I kind of gel with a little more. I love Mike Demand, and I watch his content as well. But I'm kind of, I like the Deception Detective. I like the deck of cards. I like learning. And I feel like the Deception Detective doesn't just, explain stuff. I think he teaches, and I think the Deception Detective and Mike have different teaching techniques when they're informing their audience, and I just think the Deception Detective gels more well with my ability to comprehend and understand, whereas Mike Demand might be where somebody else kind of understands him a lot better than, say, the Deception Detective, or how he's trying to explain things, or it's just that I just gel better with the Deception Detective. But both very, very fabulous statement analysis. But the Deception Detective has the playlist on, and I recommend everybody going there. But he had said something, and I can't remember. I went too far into the details and kind of got lost in the weeds. And so I just lost the point I was trying to make by trying to make sure everybody understood who the differences were, because I like them both, and I don't want to put one above the other or anything like that, and I don't want it to be a peeing contest or anything. I just have I appreciate them both. I just have a one that gels better with me, and so sometimes I feel bad about that, because I like Mike. But what was it that he said? He said something. And I think it was, Mike Demand said, he was the one that said that he believes Daniel's violent. And I believed him. And I'm glad I got to catch that one. But there was something the Deception Detective said about Daniel that I'm like, yeah. And I think it was just him, when I watched some of his videos, I think he just confirmed some of the stuff I was feeling. Even down to Janie. I don't believe she was involved, but let's face it. Now we're hearing ATVs from midnight to 5. She's sitting there saying that she hears everything. There's no way she wouldn't have heard that. She's talking about Lilly and Jack and having seen them, but yet doesn't mention anything about Lilly having a black eye. So you're already seeing she's being very, very, very deceptive for the benefit of her son. And I don't like that. Elisa B always, she's like, Dee Dee, I don't know. I feel bad that they're put in this position, but I always believe just telling the truth they didn't do anything, and I feel like they're now responsible just as much as their son and Malehya, because they're lying through their teeth, and we know they're lying. They're not helping anyone. It's hard to get people to realize when they lie for somebody on cases like this, they're not helping anyone, and they're not even helping themselves. I truly believe that you should be, when parents are faced with things like violent crimes that their children have done, and they're facing the real possibility of losing their children to the system, to the to the jails. I think that they try to protect them and sometimes stick their neck out too far and wind up right in the cell right next to their child. And I don't think that's a good strategy, because you need to be out to help your child. So consider that. I know that it's hard not to want to save your children. I get it. But to what extent? And I hope that if Janie is lying, I hope she's held responsible as well. Because these children should have been back home. These children should be put to rest, and should be able to rest at peace, if not for her lies. Of course, Daniel and Malehya, it's not like I'm blaming it all on her, but she's the other third party that could have really stood up for these children. And I feel like she's just perpetuating the same script, the same hoax, and the same lie that her son wants her to. And it's got to be an unfortunate situation, but she says she'd stand there with Malehya and make sure she could leave, which told me that he had a violent temper, because she would make sure she'd let her go. She'd make sure Daniel let her go. Parents don't talk like that about their children. If their children, she would have said something like, I don't know where all of this is coming from. He was not violent with Malehya. He would have, if she wanted to really leave, he wouldn't have stopped her. But she never said that. She said that she would step in to make sure she could leave and tell Daniel just let her leave. That's much different. Much, much, much different. So that tells me that there is this hint of violence that he has, and a hint of control that he has because of his mother and his mother's statements. But she was in denial, and she, in my opinion, has been, she lied about the pool. I don't believe the pool. I would like to see her Google history looking for this alleged pool that she was going to buy and put up. How big of an area would she have needed if she wasn't already looking for pools? Because there's many different sizes of pools. So how did she know which area needed to be packed if she didn't know what size pool she was going to be getting? She would have had a history on her phone dating back to probably a few weeks, if not a few days before she made the decision to pack the ground for the pool, no? I mean, you're not going to pack the ground for a pool and then not figure out how much a pool is going to cost. Pools can range for a lot of money. I don't know of any, outside of those little plastic tubs that are $19.99. I think just about anything else is over $100. They're living in trailers that have no floors. Where was the pool coming from? Who was buying the pool? How are they going to afford it when they can't even afford a floor? Or a roof. He's missing a floor. She's missing a roof in her RV. Who was paying for the pool? Because allegedly the pool was going to be placed right where the boot print was found, right where Daniel, Malehya, and Janie had walked through, but somehow their footprints didn't stay, just the one lone child boot print was there, which is really ironic for me because it defies logic. Have the kids been found? Not, no. Joan, well, yes and no. Lilly and Jack have not been found. However, Jaden Spicer has been found. He's been found deceased. It sounds like he was found within 19 miles of his home. And it sounds like he was out in a wooded rural area, most likely implying that his mother and stepfather or boyfriend, mom's boyfriend, would have known where he is. So we're covering 2 cases. One of the cases, the young boy was found, 10-year-old Jaden Spicer, may he rest in peace. And we have already heard and learned from law enforcement that they believe Lilly and Jack are deceased as well. And they told us that early on in the case. However, those 2 young, beautiful souls have not yet been recovered or brought home. So the mother has disappeared. We haven't heard from her. The most we've seen from the mother is when she decided to go out to the beach partying, and now she's smart, where she knows not to put it on the TikTok, the Snapchat or whatever. So I guarantee she's out partying. I believe she has a drug problem. I believe all of this is her and Daniel's fault, and I think this is all her and Daniel's fault because of substances. And I don't think Malehya has the conscience to even understand what she truly lost. So, anyways, that's kind of where we are. It comes down to this ATV, in my opinion. But go back, research Janie's interviews. If you guys find any old interviews where Janie's in or having the conversation about how she didn't pick Daniel up and wouldn't let him on the ATV and saw him over there at the pipeline and wanted to bring him back and blah, 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 send that to me. I've got the other one. I got the more lengthy interview. We'll be covering that more lengthy interview tomorrow evening. So I'll see you guys soon. But rock it out with your coffee beans out. And thanks for hanging out with me tonight, guys. What else do we have? Hey, Mama's World and Dixie. It's nice to see you. With plenty of lakes and beaches in the area. Where's the pool? Turn musty, best no late night pothole filling. You know what I was also thinking? Where that person, because I really truly believe Daniel would have buried the kids or thrown them in the water with weights on them. That's just my opinion. It sounds very callous and cold and very matter-of-fact and direct the way I'm saying it, but sometimes you just have to be that way. And if that's the case, that taking 5 hours to do that would make sense. You know what I'm saying? Because let's face it, it sounds like if that's true and that really was Daniel out there in those woods that night, you're talking about 5 hours. To me, that's I've dug ditches before. I've had to do my share of ditch digging with my dad, and I can tell you, digging it takes some time. It takes some time. 5 hours would be plenty of time. Actually, 5 hours tells me, if true, probably very, very, very deep into the woods. So I would, I don't know where they're at, but we have six trips. That's back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. That's 3 trips. Six noise paths. They said they passed 6 times. So in order to pass 6 times, that would be 3 separate trips over a 5-hour period. That's enough. That tells me that those children are out there in Lansdowne. If Daniel hasn't moved them, he could have moved them again because he's scared. He might not have moved them because he's scared he's being watched. I don't know what the case may be. But we know Adam Montgomery, he moved Harmony with him. The difference is nobody knew Harmony was missing when he was doing that. That wasn't realized until over a year, almost 2 years later. And he moved her multiple times. Everywhere they went, she was with them. Up until it got so bad that they had to do something. it makes me wonder, about these kids. I believe also Summer Wells. I believe Summer Wells was also moved multiple times. Her father is a very seasoned criminal, much like Adam Montgomery. He's the kind of man that would have a stomach for that. He's a disgusting pig. And I'm speaking about Don Wells. And that's kind of where we are. But I really think there's something to do. Something was not right when Janie would not let Daniel use the ATV. She would not let him use it. And now we're hearing a 5-speed was going up and down, ripping up and down the roads. Just saying. All right, guys, it was so great to see you this evening. As I promised, I wanted to come back to you guys tonight. I did not mean to have such a horrible breaking news like Jaden Spicer being recovered, deceased. We all kind of at least had some type of thought that his mother would ultimately be responsible. And even yesterday I said, I'm sure that it's going to ultimately be, but, we just want to be cautious. We never want to just paint with a broad brush, because this is, what we're always dealing with, because you just never know. And you want to make sure you're not accusing that one person that is innocent. So we kind of hold back a little bit. We saw where it was going. We were still trying to play it all through, including him walking out the house, potentially missing his grandmother. He's 10 years old, not understanding, she's not coming back. But this was not the case. We kind of figured that this would be not the case, and we kind of figured that it would most likely be a parent. And I think we're going to find out that that's going to be the case. And I expect, if they haven't already, somebody in the chat said that the mom had confessed and was arrested. I haven't personally seen that. But usually as soon as they find the subject recovered in a deceased manner, they typically make an arrest fairly quickly thereafter. Because you have to remember, in the first 48, they pretty much have already identified a suspect. I anticipate that being the case in Sebastian Rogers' case. I believe they've already identified the suspects within that first 48. I just think they did, they weren't as sharp and as bright as they should have been in acquiring the evidence needed. And I think that has caused them a lot of time and a lot of grief because of it. And there's no way to fix it, because they will not admit they're, I'll tell you, there's nothing better than a person that can admit a mistake. And I wish law enforcement would admit when they make mistakes, but they don't, and they won't, and it's a shame. I would have a lot more respect for, say, Eric Craddock, for example. If he came out and said, look, here's the issue. We had some hiccups in the beginning of this case, which set this case back, but we are still committed to Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers. We're going through the evidence. We are going to be, doing additional targeted searches. Just informing the public with some information to, you'd have so much more respect in the guy. Instead, we're out here, pretty much burning him down politically. I mean, he is going to be forever labeled Sheriff Snuggle Struggle. That is not a good name for a aspiring sheriff in a political world. I mean, he's forever going to be I don't know if he'll ever shake that. So, and I said that at the beginning, he can do whatever the heck he wants. It's his career. But I'll help it. I sure will. I'll help it one way, or I'll help it the other way. He made his decisions, I made mine. The worst coffee I've ever had is better than My honest opinion. Sounds like a bee. You know, I just wish I wish he would show his community the respect they deserve. I mean, he is a civil servant. And again, like I said, I deal with this all the time. Nobody's asking for integrity of the investigation. We just want to know that they still have a pulse. and right now, I'm unsure if Sumner County even has a blessed pulse. Are they still alive? Did they find Sebastian in like the linen closet of the Sumner County Sheriff's Office and, you know, just holding that news down? I mean, I just don't understand. You saw these people with Jayden, they never gave up. They found him. Why can't we they're from Kentucky. They're from a bordering state. How can Tennessee be this poor? I just don't, they're getting a big fat F. They really are. They really are. And I hope that turns around. I hope that turns around. More importantly, I hope it turns around for Sebastian's case, because every time Sumner County fails to do their job, every time they fail to get the subpoena, everything that they failed to do at the beginning, all that, it's not hurting me. It's not hurting the lousy, crappy mom or stepfather. You know who it's hurting? It's hurting Sebastian. It's hurting Sebastian's case, and more importantly, it's hurting his father that's been out there struggling trying to find him. It's just sad. But what do you do? All right, guys, I hope you guys have a great evening. We will see you in the morning sometime, probably 10 a.m., unless I'm up at the crack of dawn, and then I'll probably roll out of here whenever I'm up. Like I said, don't forget to sub up and turn your notifications to all, because